Hello and welcome to Valley Viewpoint. Winter has arrived early this year, and with it, fire hazards as we seek to heat our homes and stay warm. Here to talk with us about how to be safe during the winter months is John Knowles from the Walla Fire Department. So John, we're glad to have you with us. We'd like to find out what we need to do to be safe. So let's start out with the combustible materials. A lot of people heat their homes with wood, and a lot of times fires start in some of the homes that are being heated with wood. What's gone wrong in those instances? What do we need to do to be safe?
So typically, the wood burning fireplaces that we have troubles with and have fires in are usually a byproduct of the chimney flue being either one, dirty, or two, and more prevalent as a problem is they have cracks in them. They've got a lot of older homes in our area, and those chimneys have been around for a long time, and if they don't have the maintenance or get cleaned on a regular basis, those cracks will allow heat and fire products to escape, and typically into an attic or a wall, and then therefore it creates a problem. So the recommendation for sure is annually, at least annually, have someone check your chimney, make sure it's clean for one and completely intact.
So is once a year enough? I mean, you say they're dirty. I expect they're going to be dirty. They're designed to be dirty, but an annual checkup is sufficient?
Yeah, typically an annual checkup is sufficient. What creates a lot of that is burning materials that's not dry seasoned wood, stuff that has creosote on it or garbage or any of that stuff that would tend to build up on the sides of the chimney, and therefore create more of a fire hazard down the road. It builds up for so long, and then creates it forces that heat maybe through a crack or something like that. So yeah, once a year is good.
Now, is any wood good? I mean, are some woods better than others as far as the safety angle is concerned?
Yeah, and what the recommendation for a wood burning stove is cut and split wood like you would get from a slash pile of forest, or something along those lines that has been dried and seasoned for a year, because the wet stuff, of course, isn't going to burn near as good, and construction material and a lot of that has some glues and all that kind of stuff that's really it's not good to burn. For one, the environment; for two, the chimney. And for the folks living at home too. So dry seasoned wood is the best.
Now there are other types of fireplaces or heaters. They burn everything from corn to pellets. Is there any special instruction about that, or are these safe? Are they safer than the wood types, or about the same?
I would say that they're probably they're mostly the same. They're again having an annual checkup on the chimney system and the heat release system, even for gas fireplaces. Birds sometimes get in those vents that you see on the side of a house for a gas fireplaces. So I think really the takeaway is to have your system checked by a professional, somebody that knows what they're looking at, to ensure that it's going to use
not Uncle Joey.
Not Uncle Joey. Somebody that knows what they're looking at, to ensure that it's going to operate as designed. So that's
Now, a lot of people heat their homes with some variety of electrical heater. There are space heaters. Tragically, already this year, there were 2 children that died in our viewing area as a result of a space heater malfunction, while one parent worked cleaning in the evenings. The other parent was out of town working at his job. The two children were left alone, and they both died. Are none of these safe? How do we use these, if at all?
So yes, I'll start that by saying, yeah, they are safe. A couple of really important things to think about when, especially utilizing electric space heaters, for instance. We have annually probably 3 or 4 fires caused by space heaters, and typically it's because of misuse. So a couple of really important points to make about space heaters: make sure that they're listed by a third-party verification, like UL. Underwriters Laboratory is the first one that comes to mind. Make sure that the heater's UL listed, because they test all those things extravagantly and do a good job. So UL listed. And the other thing is that storing combustible materials, i.e. clothing, paper products, all that kind of thing. A good rule of thumb is keep 3 feet of area clear around that. And it goes for children and everybody. Think about a 3-foot span around that, and be vigilant about keeping that 3 foot clear in front of those space heaters.
So make sure that heater is more than 3 feet away from the curtain and anything else that could ignite.
Correct. Yeah, that's quite often the problem that we have run into with space heaters is just the misplacement of combustible materials, either too close to the heater itself, or even sometimes falling on the heater, unbeknownst to the homeowner or the resident. But it's just that 3 foot should be above it as well. It's not just around in front of it and etc. It's above that too. So if you're storing combustible material that could fall on top of it, that in and of itself is going to create a problem. So, yeah.
Now, this is the season of the year when people are putting up Christmas trees. I know at our house, I love to go out with the kids, grandkids, cut down the tree, bring it home, put it in. My wife this year said, no, we are going to go out and spend, I won't say how much, on an artificial one, because they dry up and they're a fire hazard. And she's right, I know, to a point. Mm-hmm. What do we do about those real Christmas trees? And I love them because they smell, like you're in the forest, not mm-hmm. like you're in a factory. But when you have those, what do you do to keep that thing from drying out and becoming a fire hazard?
Well,
and the lights that we put on them, they're electrical lights. Mm-hmm. I mean, if they malfunction, can't they just set that thing on fire?
And the potential is going to be there. You're putting electricity with dry fuel. Keys, the keys to a Christmas tree, and keeping it, keep it well watered. A lot of people just they don't think about it. It's a annual thing that's not a normal habitual thing in your home. So you got to change your habits around the Christmas time if you have a real Christmas tree. Make sure it's watered. 2, make sure that your lights, again, even the Christmas lights, they have UL listings. Make sure you're using Christmas lights that are vetted. Not old ones that have been out in the barn for 20 years. The other part there is a lot of times this time of year, folks like candles. They light a lot mm-hmm. of candles around them, and even in back in the day, that's what they used for Christmas lights were candles. That's not so much anymore, but people still light candles around the holiday season. And so it's that again goes back to that space heater question. Keep those types of things away from the Christmas trees, because even a well-watered Christmas tree eventually it's gonna combust. So have good lights. Make sure that the cords on lights, those are the ones that get you, because if they get kinked, If they're old lights and you're pulling them out of storage year after year after year, they get kinks in them. That wears out the wires for one, and worn out wires is it's going to create a fire hazard, an electrical hazard as well. So make sure
How
your
about the
lights.
extension cords that we use
That's exactly right.
to get to the lights? I mean, a lot of times you want to put the tree in this corner and it's that far to the other end where the outlet is, and so you have to put extension cords.
Yep, there again, using good equipment. I call them zip cords. They're the kind of inexpensive electrical cords that have 2 or 3 outlets on the end of them. I don't like those. I don't let my wife use them in the house. So I use those bigger orange type electrical cords. I like that. They deliver the power that's needed for a lot of other things. Those zip cords, what gets people in trouble is that they want to hide them, and so they put them under a rug or stuff them under a piece of furniture or something. And the thing about electrical cords is they create heat, and that heat has to go. It wants to dissipate. And if you trap it under a rug and you're walking on that, you're not only wearing out the cord, but you're not letting the heat escape. And so take care and route it not under carpets, not under throw rugs or under furniture.
Well, we're going to take a break right now. I want to come back to that point because my wife has this surround that goes around the tree, and I've always wondered about that. Don't go away. There's lots more safety information that you need to hear, and we will be right back.
Too little sleep and the resulting disruption of our circadian rhythms are linked to a higher risk of metabolic syndrome and diabetes. In a study designed to mimic shift work for night workers, researchers found that prolonged inadequate sleep at irregular times lowers the resting metabolic rate and leads to defects in pancreatic insulin secretion and impaired glucose regulation. That's a fact, but there's hope. You can decrease your risk for obesity and diabetes by getting adequate sleep at regular times each day. Feeling rested will also help you make more positive food and exercise choices.
Hello and welcome back to Valley Viewpoint. If you are just joining us, my guest today is John Knowles from the Walla Walla Fire Department. We are talking about fire safety. It is cold. We are heating our homes in different ways. We want you to be safe. Now, when we went to break, we were talking about putting cords under flammable materials. I know that my wife has this. I think we probably had it forever. It's a cover. It goes around the tree, and it's beautiful. And then we put the presents, which are wrapped in paper, on top of that. And we hook up the electrical lights to the tree and kind of make sure that the cord is hidden for aesthetic reasons.
Mm-hmm.
How safe are we?
Well, that depends. Really, the important piece to remember there is to make sure your cords are in good shape. Mm-hmm. They're not old cords. They're not just been crumpled up. Electrical cords don't like to be bent.
Yes.
They create heat anyway, and then when you bend them, you're creating more heat in that particular area. So just you don't want to confine them. It sounds funny when you're talking about electrical cords, but that's important. Tree skirts and whatnot, you're not, as long as you're not stacking heavy stuff on them, and the cords are in good shape, and the lights are in good shape, it's fairly safe.
Okay. Now, a week after Christmas, we celebrate New Year's, and we're bringing all those fireworks home and shooting them off. And I hear every once in a while, one of these things starts a fire. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we want to kill everybody's joy, right? I mean, it's an American tradition, New Year's, 4th of July, we're shooting off fireworks. But if we're going to do it, what do we need to do in order to keep safe?
So really be cognizant of the area you're in. A lot of folks have arborvitae tree bushes and whatnots around their house. Fireworks and arborvitaes don't mix. So just be cognizant of the area you're letting them off. And then probably even more importantly is dispose of them properly when they're spent. A lot of folks will make a mistake of putting a still hot firework in a garbage can or something and creating an issue with that. So have a bucket of water, and when you're cleaning up, put those spent fireworks in that bucket of water so we can ensure that the heat's gone, that there's no more danger of fire. So I would guess those two items, they're safe. Yeah, that helps keep safe.
Now let's talk about detectors.
Okay.
People have them, people don't have them. I know some of them are hardwired, some of them are battery operated. What should we know about fire detection systems to keep our families safe?
So there's a few things to talk about as far as fire detection. One, make sure that you have them, and they need to be in every living bedroom. And then the exit hallways from a bedroom are where they recommend putting them, placing them. Hardwired versus battery operated. Code requires now, if you're going to build a home, that it's hardwired. And that just means that it's wired to the electricity that's going down the street, right, from Pacific Power or REA. One of those companies. Those two will have a battery backup in case the power goes out or whatever. They'll have a battery backup that will operate still. So hardwire versus battery operated, they're still good detectors either way. The most important thing is to, one, have detectors in your home, and two, check those batteries.
How often?
Well, the recommended is every time you change your clock, check the batteries. So twice a year you're verifying that your smoke detectors are working and operating, and then probably once a year replace the batteries. That's so important. In my career in the Walla Fire Department, I can think of two off the top of my head where somebody was saved because of a smoke detector. Had they not had a smoke detector, the outcome may have been dismal. So vitally important, especially with children. So.
Now, while we're talking holidays, my wife loves to cook, and she's a great cook. And our kitchen is used a lot more during the holidays than at other seasons of the year. And I mean, it just makes sense. If you're using the kitchen more, you're using the ovens, you're using the stovetops, you're using other appliances, there's more potential for a fire hazard. What do we need to do to be safe in our kitchens?
Don't leave the cooking food unattended. That is probably I don't know the statistics right now, but that comes to my head as the leading cause of home fires.
I'm just tempted to cut this one off at this point because my wife is going to hear this and she's going to remind me of when I did that.
Yeah. So that's probably the leading cause for kitchen fires and cooking fires this time of year is unattended. They set a pot on the stovetop or something and walk away and forget about it, get wrapped up in some other celebration and forget about the food cooking. And so that creates a problem. So don't leave food unattended. And probably we get families together, children quite often involved. Make sure that those pot handles are turned in and not hanging over where a child can grab them. That creates problems throughout the year as well. So, yeah, unattended food and make sure the hot pans are out of children's reach.
Now, in our home, we have a fire extinguisher underneath the sink right next to the stove. What makes a good fire extinguisher? Where should we have them in our homes?
Recommended in the homes. There's not really a recommendation for how many. That's a personal preference. I have 3, I think, in my home. They're just little 5-pound ABC fire extinguishers.
Now, what does that mean, ABC?
So ABC is A is a Class A combustible material, paper, wood, that kind of thing. B is liquids, flammable liquids, and
Would
C,
that be like oil, vegetable oil,
or vegetable oil? Yeah, vegetable oil could be classified as that as well. And then C is electrical. So the ABC extinguishers that you see at Home Depot, for instance, those are all-purpose fire extinguishers that are good for homeowners to have in their home. Typically, a 5-pound one, 2 or 3 of those in a home would probably be sufficient. But
now, if I'm not being too nosy, you said you have 3 of them. Where do you keep them in your house?
So I have one in my bedroom, quick access for me in my bedroom, and then we have one in the living room and one in the family room.
Okay.
So yeah, and they're ABCs. That's the important part.
That means they can cover any of those 3 classifications
Yeah.
of fires.
Yeah. And typically that's enough for a homeowner. There's other fire extinguishers out there, like D, for instance, is combustible metals. Most homeowners are not going to have that issue, so it's unnecessary in a home setting typically. So
now, for some families, the Christmas bonfire or bonfires at this time of year are like a family tradition. So they're outdoors. Do we have to worry about them at all?
Well, there again, I just be cognizant of the area that you're in. You know, if you have combustible stuff or just a dirty area, for instance, maybe yard debris or something that a spark could get into. So just be cognizant of the area. Keep your area clean and have a fire ring.
Well, talking about combustible stuff, you know, all of us probably have some gasoline left over from mowing season, and maybe some other cleaners that we use when we're working on our engines that can start fires or can burn. What's the best way to take care of those?
There again is just cleanliness. Using approved cans and storage devices for gasoline, oil, that kind of thing. You know, get rid of your oil, your used oil, that kind of stuff. Don't leave that laying around. The city landfill, of course, takes all that stuff if you take it up there. And then probably the biggest thing is just cleanliness. Folks, just keeping your areas clean. Not storing hundreds of gallons. I think the Washington Administrative Code says 25 gallons is typically what they would expect.
25 gallons of what?
Fuel, like
gasoline?
Like gasoline. You know,
I never had that much around.
And most people don't.
Yeah.
Most people don't. But if it's above that, then they would recommend you putting it in a combustible liquid storage unit. You know, that's metal or non-combustible. I think probably approved cans and just cleanliness. That's probably the 2 biggest things.
Okay. Pretty basic.
Yeah, pretty basic, really. Cleanliness is a big one for a lot of this stuff that we're talking about today. Just keeping your area clean.
Well, Mr. Knowles, we want to thank you for joining us and helping us to be safer throughout this year.
Yeah.
And we want to thank you for joining us on Valley Viewpoint. If you have an idea, concept for a future viewpoint, why not contact us? You can reach us at 509-529-9149. That's 509-529-9149. Maybe you'd like to be a guest. We're open to your suggestions, and we want to serve our community by providing the information that is vital for all of us. Thank you for joining us for Valley Viewpoint.